Hi folks, Jennifer Nelson here with Pocket Hours. Pocket Hours is the only podcast made by realtors for realtors. Come listen as I interview high producing brokers to hear their best practices. And don't forget that while you are listening, you are also earning clock hour credit. Tune in every other week to hear from someone new, and please remember to tell your broker friends about Pocket Hours so more folks can elevate their business. Be the agent you would hire. Looking forward to having you listen in. Hello everyone, Jennifer Nelson here with Pocket Hours, and I got to interview Denise Christofferson today. And Denise is a 13-year veteran of this business who is knocking it out of the park. While some other producers are sort of twiddling their thumbs at the beginning here of 2023, Denise is killing it. And so part of the reason I wanted her on the podcast is to talk about why. What has she been doing? What do you think is contributing to her success? One of the things she talks about in this interview is tracking your time and tracking how you already got the business that you've already had. And so oftentimes I think people get in this business and sort of treat it like a hobby and are surprised that, oh, look at, I got a closing. And Denise takes this job very seriously and does an exceptional job for her clients. I'm excited for you to hear from her. Here we go. Denise Christofferson, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Glad you're on it. I have been pestering Denise, if that's the right word, I think, to get on my show because she is knocking it out of the park. She's a killer agent, and I just can't wait for others to hear some of your secret sauce success stories. So we'll get to that in a minute. But before we do, Denise, tell us a little bit about you, partner, pets, anything else you want to share with us about your life outside of real estate?
Yeah, so outside of real estate, so been married for over 25 years now.
Nice. Congrats.
And have pets. So I'm a dog magnet. We're down to 2 right now, but yeah, so love our animals. I'm the oldest of 4 girls.
Oh, wow.
So that's been fun. Very close with my sisters. And we all live within an hour of each other. So that's really nice. Love to travel, love good food, appreciate, gardening and all that kind of stuff. Although I don't do it myself too much anymore, but I love things that are aesthetically pleasing.
Oh, that's great. How fun. I am one of 3 girls. And I have a brother that came later, so I too share the joy of having sisters, close sisters. It's phenomenal. Pretty great. Well, good. And how long have you lived in the area?
All my life. I've been in Washington for forever.
Forever. Okay.
Forever, yes.
Right on. That's great. And tell me a little bit about pre-real estate. So first of all, how long have you sold real estate?
I've sold real estate. This is my 13th year.
Okay.
So,
and before that, what profession or professions were you doing?
I was in the medical field right out of high school. So in our family, it's always been part of real estate, investing, that kind of thing. So I actually was exposed to that at a really young age and helping with rentals and things like that. So that was always intriguing. I bought my first house when I was 18, which
Nice.
was a great stepping stone into other things later on.
Mm-hmm.
But, I worked in the medical field, kind of doing a lot of administrative type of things, supporting a group of orthopedic surgeons, L&I authorization surgeries, and things like that. And so that's where my attention to detail really came in there, and then stayed home with kids for a few years and always had something going on in the background. I was always involved in something, growing the PTA or, some little side hustle business or something like that. So I always had something I was doing, not just to stay busy, but I love learning, growing, and finding new things to do. So
That's great.
And then I got involved in real estate, just really through buying and selling real estate. And I just had a perception about what a real estate person was prior to one of our purchases. I just thought it was a salesy job that I didn't really think I would want to be associated with. I had kind of a bad affiliation to that. And we had a really great experience with one of our agents that we worked with on a purchase. And I thought, oh, if that's, what it's like, well, that's kind of my style. I love to educate people, help people, be an advocate for them. And so anyway, I kind of stewed on that for a little bit. And then I was like, okay, I think I'm going to do this. The kids are getting old enough. And I contacted her and started asking her some questions. And she said, well, I'm getting out. I'm done. And it was, the time that when the market was pretty rough for a lot of people. So of course I didn't know anything different. And so I didn't know what I didn't know. And I just jumped in and worked hard. I ended up buying all her lock boxes when she was getting out of the business. So my mentor that I thought I was going to have was jumping out. So, so anyway, that's kind of how it started. And I was going to do it as a hobby and just some supplemental income. And it just grew and grew from there. So it's been very rewarding. And I'm primarily a referral based business at this point.
That's
great.
And
I always have been from the very beginning. It's not a cold caller.
Yeah, for sure not. Well, congrats. That's so great. I love the couple things you said. One, that real estate drew you partly from a bad experience and then partly from a good experience, right? So you were like, I don't want to be that way, but I sure can do that and maybe do it better than good experience you had. And then I also liked that you sort of knew only what you knew, but you knew how to work hard. And so you're like, whatever market is, I'm just going to go work it. And even in the midst of a really junky market, you seem to flourish. So that will serve you well, even today in a weird market.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, definitely.
That's great. So when you think back to those early days, we're going to talk for just a minute about that hard work. What do you think impacted your business to change it? You said you started off even right away as a referral business. Why do you think that was? I mean, so many agents get into this and they're buying leads and they're door knocking and they're cold calling and they're doing a lot of the sales tactics that, some companies teach. Why was your experience different, do you think?
I just really enjoy problem solving and taking in high level customer service and taking good care of people. It wasn't ever about that I needed to make a certain amount of money. Yes, the money is great and rewarded greatly in that way, but that was not my driver. So it just allowed me to really take good care of people, and people would come to me with experiences that they had that were not so great, and I just thought, how could anybody operate that way and sleep well at night and have so I mean, I guess we have that in any industry where you have people that take good care of people and other people that are just in and out, and it's not about the relationship. So I think that part's been different for me.
It's funny that you said sleep well at night. The difference in mentality between a job and something you just get done so that you get paid, and someone who says, I'm here to serve and I'm here to do exceptional work and I'm here to take care of you and pay attention and listen. And boy, the difference, right? Boy, the difference and the chasm between the two. So it's not surprising to me that you were able to grow a business fairly quickly, given the fact that you came at it from a completely different angle. And you had the luxury, let's be honest, you had the luxury of not necessarily needing, quote unquote, the money. And at the same token, I think your mentality around how can I do the best job for each individual person I serve, then they say, how can we not refer you, right? Then it becomes a pretty easy referral business. That's great. What did you find hard about the business, or what do you find hard about the business?
I think the pressure in the beginning to cold call, door knock, call expireds, that is just not my style. So I've done a lot of coaching and things like that in classes, seminars, and that always seemed to be something that was hit pretty hard. Making a certain number of contacts, which yes, I know are important to do. So I was struggling with that. And I think it was kind of holding me back that I had to hit certain metrics in a certain way. And one of the designated brokers that we had at the office, he was doing a coaching program and he invited me to do it. And that really kind of changed things for me. He said, it doesn't have to be that way for it to work with the way you operate. Your strength is here.
Mm-hmm.
Let's focus on that and, what you can do around that. And so that was a shift for me, and it took off a lot of pressure, and it just allowed me to work where I'm naturally best at building the business. So that was really helpful.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And I want to put a plug in for brokers that are listening to this now and in the future, is to say your education and your commitment to continue to be educated will make you or break you. And that's what I mean. I really think it's so important for us to pay for the coaching that we need. We can't make this up. We need other people that have gone before us to say, here's some new tactics, here's some new things you can learn, and continue in your continuing education, not just checking the box to get, the required hours to be able to get your license updated, but to say, where am I lacking? What things do I not know, which probably are still a lot. And I mean, you've been at this for a while. I've been at it for over 20 years, and I learn something new almost every day, it feels like. So that's what's cool about our industry. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think the other thing too, I had to get over was in the very beginning was feeling like I had to know the answer to everything. So that was a change for me too. And, I just learned that it wasn't that I had to have the answer. I needed to know where to get the answer. And I've always been very resourceful, and I don't give up quickly. So I did change some language. Some self-talk, I guess, and just how I answered those kind of questions. And then it made it a lot more fun too, because I love problem solving and research.
I love that. I'm writing down this quote because I think it's so good, but you just said, you don't need to know all the answers. You need to know where to find all the answers. And that's so true. I mean, no matter where you are in your tenure in this industry, be the resource or have resources to help you find it. And your authenticity around that with your clients is also going to win you huge points when you say, I actually don't know the answer to that, but I'm going to find out for you. And they trust that a lot more than someone who's, speaking out of their ear. We have to say out of their ear because we're on podcasts, because otherwise we have other words for that. Well, good. So some of the listeners on this call are people that are brand new to the industry, just got their license. They're a couple years in maybe, and they're sort of disillusioned a little bit by this. Potentially they got in because someone said, you can make a lot of money selling real estate. Or this is, you don't have to work very hard. It's 10 hours a week and you can make $300,000 a year, whatever, all the lies that people are saying about our industry over the years. But what advice would you give a newbie to just sort of get encouraged in the business?
I would say to talk to as many people as possible that are in their office, be in proximity to people that are doing what you want to do. I think that's a really good one, and not be afraid to ask questions. I know when I was new in the business, we had, kind of a resource room area, and I would just go sit in there for hours and I would just listen to the conversations that were happening around me. And I picked up on a lot, and, a lot of people were willing and able to also help and answer questions. So I would say just, asking questions and also being a fly on the wall, and try to tune in and pick up on as much as you can.
That's great advice. I've said this before on the podcast, and I'll say it again, that this is a very lonely business if you make it that way. And you can hole up and try to do Lone Ranger real estate. And I can tell you from experience, it doesn't work, and you'll burn out and you'll hate the industry. So for sure, be around other realtors that encourage you, and go take some people out to lunch that are doing what you want to do and figure out their schedule. I love that. And then,
Mhm.
so Denise, let's turn just for a minute now to people that have been doing this, let's say 5, 7, 8 years, and they've sort of been hitting that, plateau. They are making essentially around the same amount of money every year. They seem to have the same number of transactions, whatever, and they just can't up level. And do you have any advice for people that are sort of mid game and need to up level?
I would say write it down and kind of keep track of your activities and see where you're spending your time. I did start tracking everything a few years ago, and I always felt like I was very busy, but I didn't really know what I was spending my time on, although I was having great results. And
Hmm.
then once I started tracking everything I was doing, appointments, phone calls, showings, open houses, all those kind of things, I could really see. And then also tracking how people were coming to me
Hmm.
so I could spend time and resources there. So that was a big help. And it also helped me realize that I was doing more than I thought I was doing by seeing things written down.
That's so good. I love that. I just wrote it down as well. But there's a book. I'm sorry, I'm going to forget the title right off the top of my head. But in the line in the book is winners are trackers and trackers are winners. And it
Mm,
doesn't matter if you're trying to lose weight or if you're trying to figure out your food or your whatever. But real estate's no different. I love that sort of logging what you're doing. I also heard someone say once that if you treat real estate like a hobby, it'll
mhm.
pay like a hobby.
Right.
If you treat it like your job, it'll pay like a job and your profession. So I love that. Pocket Hours is brought to you by Scout Real Estate. Hi, I'm Jennifer Nelson, owner at Scout Real Estate. I started this firm with the vision of doing things differently, with our focus on legendary service for our clients and creating a community of producing agents to spur each other to do higher quality work. If you are interested in learning more about how a small group of like-minded brokers have come together to have some fun while doing a lot of business, reach out to me, 206-227-7966, or email jennifer@scoutrealestate.com. I promise you this, fun is a high priority for me, but so is winning. So if you appreciate those two things, you might be interested in Scout. Looking forward to hearing from you. Keeping track. I think a lot of people, when I ask them and have coached them over the years, I'll say, so let's figure out how many hours you actually worked last week. And when they've tracked it, they've come up with 15 hours. And I was like, oh, well, then there you go. There's your income for 15 hours.
Right.
Yeah,
All right.
seems to correspond. I love it. Let's talk just for a minute about, obviously, I'm going to say this date. We're in April of 2023. So if you're listening to this in years to come, this may not be as relevant to you then. But talk to us a little bit about this particular market. It's a little wonky. You are killing it right now, which is different than a lot of other brokers. So first talk about the market and then tell us why you're, not experiencing what a lot of high producers are experiencing right now.
Yeah, it has been an interesting market. 2022, that's where I saw the slump. As soon as interest rates began to increase at the pace that they were increasing,
Mm-hmm.
I did have some listings that we got caught in that whole shift of things and ended up having to, linger or do price reductions that, it was just a real bummer to be in there. But I still stayed busy, just not to the level that, is normal for me.
Mm-hmm.
Coming into 2023, I had a lot of buyers that were not wanting to compete in the market that we previously had. So they were waiting for opportunities. So I would say that time in December, January was a huge opportunity for buyers. And I usually tend to be a little more listing heavy. It was a great time because I had people that were just watching for a great deal, and we got some awesome deals,
Hmm.
with the listings that had lingered over from 2022 into 2023. So I would say that was it, just people that were ready to move and not afraid to jump in, and people that said, okay, I'd rather get a good deal here knowing that I can refi later.
Mm-hmm.
I get to work with the best clients. I say for the most part, they're just really good people, and they listen to, my advice for the most part. So, things can work out a little bit better that way too. So going into February, I've just seen a lot of rate sensitivity. It seemed like at the first of the year, people sort of adjusted to the higher interest rates. Now I'm seeing anything like over 6.5, people get a little more rate sensitive. When we went under 6.5, people seem to be a little more tolerant. Now I'm back more on the listing heavy side of things. My buyers, for the most part, I still have a lot of them out there, and a fair number of them are just sort of priced out of the market for anybody that's new. So they're just sitting and waiting. And now it's, back into primarily listings.
Doing some more listings. Yeah, you've had quite a few this year. And they've done well. I was almost a part of one, so close. I was sad that my buyer backed out at the last minute, but what a great listing. You've had some great listings. So congrats to a great 2023 start of.
Yeah, definitely. It's been good so far.
So I'd love to ask you this question, and I'm going to talk for a minute so you can have a chance to think about your answer. So what is something strange that you've encountered in our industry? And I'll tell my story first. So you have a minute to think about yours. This has to have happened to you and others in the industry, but I show up with a buyer to their inspection back when inspections were happening, after you got in contract, and they brought 10 people along with them to the inspection. So it was pretty much their entire family. It was a woman. And so it was the guy that she was dating, his dad, and I think like an uncle, and then, her mom and siblings, whatever. So there was 10 people at that inspection. And I remember my inspector looking at me and being like, okay, wow, here we go. Right. Because everybody had a little something to prove about all they knew about housing. But I work with professionals that were able to navigate that. But I was like, that's probably a record of people that showed up in an inspection. So we get new and fun challenges every single day. So anything strange come to mind for you?
I'm trying to think. I feel like I try to block certain things, and then when I'm past it, it's like, okay, glad I'm done with that.
Yeah, don't have to do that.
I actually have a client who's an illustrator, and we had started talking about some things a few months ago, and he said, I should really illustrate some of these things and put it in a book. You could have a whole thing about odd things and strange things that happen in real estate, which would be really fun to do.
That's right. There's your next thing. You're gonna be an author of real estate oddities, and every realtor will buy a copy of that because they'll be like, "Yep, we've encountered that. I love it."
I should start to write some things down. I mean, just something that is kind of funny and strange that happened several years ago, and I'm sure we've all done this with getting locked into a house or out of a house. And,
yes, for sure. Oh yeah.
So I did have that happen, and I was like, oh gosh, I don't know. I didn't know the person. They had found me online and had come from out of state. And so I don't know them from anybody. And then I go to meet at this house for the first time, and it's only the husband shows up. We're going through the house and everything. And we walk in the garage, and the door on the garage shuts and locks. So here now I'm standing inside the garage with this guy I don't know.
Oh no, scary.
Thinking, oh my gosh, what's gonna happen
now?
What? Yeah, luckily he was a nice guy and ended up figuring out a way to get us out of the garage. But so that is one lesson I will never forget. I always check that garage. I'm the last one coming into the garage. I always check the handle because a lot of the self-locking doors. But that was kind of an entertaining one that could have been a little bit scary.
Yeah, get to know your client fast, right? You're like, okay, well, here's the garage. We're going to stay here for a while. That's funny.
Yes.
I love it.
You're a nice guy. And
yes, please be a nice guy. Exactly. Oh, that's funny. Okay, so change directions with me again here for a second and before we wrap up. And that's to say, you do primarily listings, and there's a lot of talk in our industry around discounting commissions. So we might have one seller that we charge, I'm going to throw out a number, 4% to, and another buyer we charge 2.5% to. Do you have a consistent I guess, commission that you charge. You don't have to say the number. And then, and or if not, why, or how do you sort of handle someone who's saying, yes, Denise, we want to list with you, but Redfin or another discount broker is saying, we'll offer, this price. Would you match it? How do you navigate that?
I think conveying the value that you bring to a
Mm.
listing, and if that comes up, I will tell people, I'm not a discount broker and I may not be the right person for you,
Yeah.
but you do have to back that. So, when I go to a listing appointment, I'm very prepared with a lot of information. I do explain that it's, kind of how it works and that it's not just me that they're getting. I have staff that I also have to pay. I have to pay for a lot of things to make this happen. And it takes a lot of work and effort to get the results that, that we want to achieve. So they're not paying for this instance, they are paying for, all my knowledge, my experience, my determination, and everything else to, and I guess not, I don't know if I want to say reputation, but
Yeah.
when you're in the industry for a long time, people do get to know your name, and you can have better results if you have a good track record in the business. People know you to be a good person and a fair person.
Hmm.
So, that's kind of the route that I go with that. And I don't push hard on, I'll just, put it out there. And, if they are money sensitive in that way, I mean, it usually isn't actually an issue. But if they were,
Mm-hmm.
then I don't want to be nickel and dimed. I want to be able to provide the best service, the highest level of service. I sacrifice a lot of my personal life and time to give to my clients. And, I think just knowing your value.
I love that. And I know that for those of you new in the industry listening to this, you panic when you hear someone say, well, we might not be a good fit, but I can't tell you how liberating and how much it will set you up for success when you recognize that not everybody that wants you to work for them are people you want to work for, that you are interviewing them as much as they're interviewing you. And what's great, I think, and Denise, I know you'll agree with this, is that once you start to work with quote unquote the right people, your people, and they refer you, it's very likely that that referral will be similar to the other one, right? Because they refer like-minded people. So less and less you'll have to handle the people that are sort of coming off the street saying, hey, how about you give us a discount, but provide all of your value, but do it for the Redfin price. And you're like, oh, nope, that doesn't work. And here's why. And being able to articulate that value. And at the end of the day, being able to walk away and say, I'd rather have different clients. I don't need to discount myself. And in fact, once I do, that's a slippery slope of people then thinking, well, her commission rate is up for grabs or his commission rate is up for grabs. So I love it.
They just don't know what they don't know about the amount of work that it takes to make things happen. And I think once they have a better understanding of that, it really does help. And I always tell them, I want you to get your money's worth out of me. And, my goal is to pay for myself with the results that we get.
Nice. I don't know, Denise, if you know Scott Monroe, but one of the things he said years ago to me is when someone asked him for a commission discount, he said, I don't give away my money before I earn it. And he said, so at the end of the end of the process, if you're not fully satisfied with the result, we can talk about it then. But it's weird for me to already be handing you back money when I haven't done any work for you yet. So let's talk later, right? So I love that.
Oh yeah, that's a great one.
Well, before we go, anything else you would add that you'd love listeners to hear about you and your business before we wrap up?
I would say on the topic we were just covering, not necessarily about compensation, but working with the right people. One thing I would say, sometimes I've hung on to a client longer than I should have.
Yeah.
Because I've wanted to see things through. I wanted it to work out for them. And, you do run across people that no matter what, they are not going to be happy.
Mm.
And it is really liberating to cut people loose when you know you need to, because they're sucking all the energy out of you and your business. And you can't want it for them more than they want it for themselves. You can only help people to a certain degree. So I would say that for anybody newer is don't help somebody at all costs, because it will take away business in other areas that could be coming to you. So,
For sure.
and that's proven itself a few times for me. It's like, okay, as soon as I let that go or close, made it to the finish line and was able to move on, a whole world of other opportunities flood in that were not because of that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's great advice. And, not coincidentally, that's true in life too, right? Like you're in a relationship, you shouldn't be in romantically, and you leave them and, but lo and behold, right, someone far better shows up. So yeah, protect your time, and protect how much time you're giving complaining about a client. Pay attention. If it's too much time, they're probably not the ones for you. So I like it. Denise, thank you so much for being on the show. I've enjoyed talking to you, and I'm sure that our listeners are going to get a lot out of this. And it's fun to watch you kill it out there. I hope we can have coffee sometime soon, and I just appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jennifer.
Thank you so much for listening into Pocket Hours. I hope this has been interesting, fun, made you laugh, made you think, spurred you on to do and implement some new things in your business. I appreciate your time and hope this has been a good use of it, period. Now, go be the agent you would hire.